This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Network. My name is Chris Blades, and before I get started today, I want to make sure I remind you guys, as always, to subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top when we drop our latest stuff. If you would please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. We very appreciate it. It's very helpful. See what you guys like, what you guys dislike, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we are also on social media, so you can find us there: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. And obviously, well, not obviously, but we finally had another live event to look forward to. I know technically the first real live event was the WNBA draft last Friday, but not everybody was paying attention to that one. For better or for worse, I know not everybody's into women's sports as much, but the NFL draft, was the one thing that most people were looking forward to the most, obviously because it's really the only thing coming down the pipeline for the foreseeable future in terms of on the sports side. And for the most part, it did not leave us disappointed. Like I said, we're going to talk about it as a whole. The first round, obviously, there's only been one round. There'll be more tomorrow. Well, I guess today when you guys are hearing this. Rounds 2 and 3 on Friday, and then we'll finish out the rest on Saturday. So, and then from there, we're basically just going to have the Michael Jordan doc to look forward to. So, don't rush through this. Take the time and enjoy it, because like I said, I don't really know what there'll be to look forward to in the near future in terms of like I said, a live sporting event kind of thing. And I'll give the NFL credit, because outside of I understand why them giving the essential workers and everybody that's been fighting to keep everybody safe during this pandemic their time to shine. But the draft took a little too long to start, in my personal opinion. But I mean, hey, there's not anybody was going to watch anything else. So that's the things that they knew that they had people kind of hooked. So I'm also interested to see what their ratings for this were. See if they were any higher or lower. I don't think they'd be lower. But if they're any higher than they normally were for the draft, just because again, it's the only thing they have to compete with. Normally, they at least have to compete with like the playoffs or like baseball or something. It's something I saw and people would tune in and out, but I wonder if people would stay through more than they normally would. But yeah, no, I'll give them credit. The virtual draft wasn't that bad. The booing thing was kind of awkward, because it's like, I don't know how that worked. Like, I guess they just switched out the teams. Obviously, they switch out the teams every pick, but like it was just awkward because it's not like the same. When Goodell's getting booed, like in whatever setting there, whether it's like, again, they've been changing the location the last few years, but wherever they're at, they're hosting the draft. When he's getting booed, obviously it's loud, it's audible, you can hear it, you can sense it. It's like a different thing when it was like over the internet. It didn't have that same kind of thing. I know Goodell was he was doing his best trying to lean into it and stuff, but it was just like it was kind of weird and felt like a little forced and contrived. Obviously, normally the booing is like very natural, but like since he's in a room by himself, most likely it's hard for it to be natural. But give them credit. I know on Monday when they had the mock draft, they said that there were some issues with the first pick, but after that it went pretty smooth, and this one went pretty smooth. There were no issues. No one went over the time. All the trades got in time. Everybody seemed to make their picks. Everyone was able to communicate. They were able to put up all the guys on the TV, so they were able to have their moment. They didn't interview everybody, obviously, because they didn't need to, but everyone seemed to be able to get that moment. So I give the NFL credit. For the most part, it kind of went off pretty good. Now, they got 6 more rounds. So we'll see how the rest of it goes, and if there are any bumps or hiccups or anything with the rest of the draft. But so far, so good in the first round. And then from the first round, the early part was pretty straightforward. I mean, going back and looking at the draft now, I mean, no one in the first, I guess, what? I'm trying to think when the first surprise was, honestly. Like, the first 10, 12, first, like, and I don't know how, it's hard to say certainly how far it went, but for the most part, the early part of the draft went, like, pretty much as you expect. Like, obviously Joe Burrow went first. What's it called? Chase Young went second. Okudah went third. Fourth was, I mean, it was up in the air what the Giants were going to do. They ended up taking a tackle, and not Isaiah Simmons. So, and they need a tackle. They need to be able to protect Daniel Jones and block for Saquon. It's been the biggest issue for them the last couple of years. So I get it. Thomas may not have been the guy. Everybody, that's the thing about these tackles. There's no like consensus number one. There was 4 consensus elite tackles than everybody else, but there's no consensus number one. Different teams are going to have different things, and I think we'll get into that maybe later in this segment or in the next segment about how people, the way the public perceives versus on what the NFL teams have in their draft. But I think a lot of people view things differently on the outside than the teams do, and that causes people to go earlier or later, or people to get chosen in place where you don't expect because the public has an idea of where they think based on mock drafts or based on analysts or whatever they're reading, but NFL teams don't always view that the same way. But yes, and Andrew Thomas went to Giants. That one was, like I said, that could have been a couple of different guys, but tackle made sense. Then Tua went 5th. I wasn't sure if the Dolphins were going to do it, but they did it. Give them credit. They did not do the Drew Brees thing. Doesn't mean it's going to work out, but obviously they were famous for back in the day passing on Drew Brees because of his shoulder, and then he's been with the Saints and it's worked out perfectly for them. And they didn't do it with Tua this time around. Again, no guarantee it's going to work, but I give them credit for, when in doubt, if you have a guy you like at quarterback, go get him. Don't be like, but we could get this pick or this guy, or we could maybe wait till 18, or we could maybe just wait till next year. Because again, their division's not going to be as good, I don't think, because they don't have the Patriots, obviously. The defense should be fine. The offense is going to be, who knows what it's going to look like. The Bills made the playoffs, but again, I don't know if Josh Allen, I mean, the defense is solid, but I don't know if Josh Allen is 100% like over that hump as in terms to like he could be like a top 10 quarterback. I don't think he's there yet. Not to say he can't improve, but I know from an offense standpoint, I don't know how many people are scared of Josh Allen throwing the ball. Now they have Stephon Diggs, that'll make a big difference for them, I believe, because I know they had John Brown, they had Cole Beasley last year, but they didn't have like that elite route runner. John Brown's a very good route runner, and Cole Beasley gets open, but Stephon Diggs can get open on literally anybody. So that adds another dynamic to their team. And now it's with the Jets. It's like, I mean, you hope Sam Darnold can improve. You hope the offense is a little bit better, though the receiver situation kind of shaky. No Robbie Anderson. Obviously, they signed Perriman, but who knows how well he'll gel in. And I guess, again, you got to see with the draft and everything. I imagine they're going to draft a receiver at some point to try to add in there. And they haven't traded Jamal Adams yet, so as long as he's there, the defense should be decent at worst. So yeah, you don't really know. They're kind of up in the air in terms of what they could be. So the Dolphins may not be in position to draft this high again. So that's what I'm saying. When in doubt, take your guy. Same thing with the Giants last year. I mean, obviously, a lot of people clown them, and understand we saw at the time for Daniel Jones, but he's their guy. And if he's your guy, you take him at 6 as opposed to waiting until 18. I think that's another odd misconception fans have. They think like, based on mock drafts and based on things I've read, this guy should be available at this pick, so we should trade back, or we should not pick him here, we should pick him there to get the best value, blah, blah, whatever. If you think the player's going to be good, you take him when you have the pick. Don't be like, I think we can trade back and get the guy, because there's no guarantee. Like, obviously, I think it worked for the Niners, I would say, because they need extra picks, and they end up trading back up, so it didn't even matter in the first round to get another one of their guys. But they traded back with the Bucks to get a defensive tackle because they traded away Buckner, so it made sense that they would do that. But they didn't trade back that far; they traded back one pick, so they're not worried about the guy that they wanted being gone. But if you trade back to like in the 20s, and there's a chance, not even in the 20s, if you trade back to the late teens, there's a chance he's not there anymore, and then obviously that affects your team. So I think that's another thing people have to understand, that not life or the real draft is not a mock draft. People that are available when you do these mock drafts or run these simulations aren't always going to be there in the real draft. Or and then people that aren't available in the mock drafts are going to be available. So you got to allow, like I said, CeeDee Lamb. I don't know how many mock drafts Cowboys fans would have done that had CeeDee Lamb falling to 17, but he was available. And then now the Cowboys bypass maybe other positions, pass rusher, corner, safety, that they could use more, maybe even center, obviously with Frederick retiring, that they could probably utilize more to take a guy who was most likely the best player on their board at the time. All because, again, mock drafts aren't the real thing. There are players that are going to last, or players that are going to be there and aren't going to be there that we don't know. So yeah, long story short, that was just for me to say that I know people were uncertain if the Dolphins were going to get a quarterback. They decided to go with the quarterback. Then Herbert went. I'm a little indifferent on Herbert just because I watched a lot more Oregon games than you're a common East Coast person. And he's not a guy I would risk my franchise for and risk my job security for. But I mean, he's got like the typical size and build that people want in NFL quarterbacks now, so I'm not surprised he won in the top 10. But yeah, so you got one of the biggest surprises in the top 10 for me was the Panthers passing on Isaiah Simmons, especially with Luke Kuechly retiring. It seemed like that's a guy you could build your defense around, with a guy who can play linebacker, you can play safety, you can play nickel corner, or slot corner, I shouldn't say not nickel, but slot corner. He can do a little bit of everything. They chose not to take him. They went with Derek Brown, defensive tackle from Auburn. Very good player as well. Helped beef up that defensive line. But, again, kind of surprising. The Cardinals got them, were able to scoop that up. Got him. Then you had, like I said, some other picks, a little run on offensive linemen. In the early teens, Henry Ruggs being the first receiver off the board, I believe. I talked about that being a possibility. I kind of just expected it because of the speed. And he went to the Raiders. That was pretty... I mean, that seems like one of the most unsurprising things of the draft. The Buccaneers trade up to get a tackle to arguably the best and worst, depending on who you ask. Probably the most athletic, at least, to get a tackle to help block for Brady, because that's definitely was an issue for them last year. Their offensive line was not that good. Broncos get their guy opposite CeeDee Lamb. I'm not CeeDee Lamb. Cortland Sutton with Jerry Jeudy. Great, elite route runner. Can get open. Has a little bit of a concentration drop issues. Going to have to work on that. But again, him and Cortland Sutton, that's a nice little duo. And plus, you can line Jeudy up in the slot as well. As you go through the rest of the picks, another one that was a little bit surprising was Arnett being the second corner off the board. Third, because AJ Terrell being the second corner off the board was a little bit surprising. Again, didn't watch many Clemson games last year for him, but the one game I did watch was the LSU game, obviously, and Jamar Chase cooked him like bad, like deep fried barbecue chicken kind of stuff. Not the deep fried barbecue chicken. I wonder how that would taste, but you guys get what I'm saying. Yeah, it was bad. And again, obviously he had a great year outside of that. Didn't really affect his drafts. To take that back, he was a third. C.J. Henderson was the second. That made sense. But yeah, he was a third. I didn't expect him to be a third. I'm surprised Christian Fulton didn't go, which we'll talk about him and other guys that are still available a little bit later. But yeah, so he went. And like I said, Damon Arnett and Terrell were the next two corners off the board. A little surprising to me. The Vikings probably arguably had the best first round if you want to do that weird who had the best draft grade thing in terms of the two guys they got. They got Justin Jefferson, who was obviously prolific at LSU this past season, to fill a need for them, having traded Stephon Diggs. They need help at receiver. It was just really Adam Thielen. Now they get another guy that should be good. And I know just like Diggs, just like Thielen, he's a good route runner. And that's kind of what the Vikings offense like to utilize, it seems like, at least. So that's helpful. And then what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah, but then with that, the Eagles, who also needed a receiver, did not trade up for CeeDee Lamb, which I know a lot of their fans weren't happy about. Understandably so, because, again, CeeDee Lamb was arguably the best receiver in this class. But from a fit standpoint, again, he's great yak, great after the catch, great making people miss. But the speed, not that the speed is bad, but he doesn't have that game-breaking speed that they need. Necessarily, a lot of his stuff is contested catches, and that's not always an easy thing to translate to the NFL level. Just because, again, you need to be able to run away from people and create that separation consistently at the NFL level. And so they ended up drafting Jalen Reagor from TCU, who obviously didn't have the numbers of a CeeDee Lamb or a Justin Jefferson, due partly because his quarterback play is pretty bad. But yeah, he just brings a speed to that offense that, again, a guy like Justin Jefferson maybe doesn't bring. I know unofficially at his pro day he ran like a 4.2. I know at the combine he ran like in the 4.4s, even though he had gained a little bit more weight before the combine, so maybe that was probably the reason why. And also, I think I saw a tweet saying that he had like the fastest, the next gen stats tracked like the fastest ball carrier, and he was the fastest guy, like 22.6 miles per hour. I think that was 0.3 faster than anybody in the NFL had in any 2019. So again, the Eagles' offense needed speed, and he was able to bring that to them. So that's helpful. And then probably one of the bigger surprises of the first round was the Packers getting the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers. Apparently, they said on the broadcast that Aaron Rodgers is the same age currently that Brett Favre was when they drafted Aaron Rodgers to be the heir apparent to Brett Favre. So it's interesting. See how that works. See if he ends up sitting 3 or 4 years like Aaron Rodgers had to. I know Aaron Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show earlier today, but just, I don't know if it was earlier today or earlier this week, saying that the Packers haven't drafted a skill position like either a receiver or running back. Not that they need a running back, but receiver or running back in the first round like 15 years. He was kind of hoping for one. Obviously, they need somebody opposite Devontae Adams. Didn't get it. Went with quarterback. Don't know what that means. But yeah, I thought that was probably one of the most intriguing picks, to say the least. I don't know. Again, I'm not in the business of grading best and worst and stuff. I don't make like draft boards. I'm not like a draft. I don't portray myself to be some sort of draft expert, though. I feel like I watched a good enough amount of college football to know these guys and know who I think is good and who I think is going to be good and going to be bad in the league. But again, I'm not an expert. But yeah, that's definitely the most intriguing. But yeah, no, I mean there was a decent enough trades, enough surprises, enough interesting picks to where it gave us the entertainment that we were all hoping for. At the end of the day, we were going to watch it regardless. But after like the top 10, where it basically went, you could have gone through a lot of mock drafts, and the way that the top 10 shook out would not have been that much different. Other than, I guess, Cardinals going Simmons at 8. I don't know if that many people had that. A lot of people thought they could get a tackle, and they arguably probably do need a tackle. But I guess they should have a pick in the top of the second round. They can get one there, hopefully, if either guy's around. But yeah, it was intriguing. So after this break, we're going to come back and I'm going to talk about some of my favorite picks and some of the picks that left me scratching my head just a wee bit. So we'll talk about that right after this break. Stay right there.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Network. So, obviously, with 32 picks, there's a lot to choose from, both good and, like I said, I don't want to say bad because we don't really know who's going to be good or who's going to be bad until at least a couple years from now. It's hard, and I mean, first off, we don't even know if there's going to be a season. I know I keep saying that, but we really don't know. And then, yeah, it's always weird to me when people, like, judge picks the night of, like, oh, this guy's going to be terrible, or this guy's going to be amazing. Like, we legitimately, generally speaking, we don't know. Like, there are certain guys that I myself have been certain on. Like, I knew is a strong word, but I felt very confident that Zeke was going to be amazing, especially when he got drafted by the Cowboys. I was very much penciled in on that. I was all in on McCaffrey, was all in on Dalvin Cook being good. Who else have I been all in on? I'm all in on CeeDee Lamb currently. Him and Judy. I think they're both going to be good. I was all in on Jalen Ramsey. I mean, again, most of these guys are like high picks, but I'm trying to think who else. I was all in on Deshaun. I thought Deshaun was going to be good. I still don't know how Mitch Trubisky got picked before him. Mahomes, that's whatever. A lot of people got Mahomes wrong, but I still don't know how the Deshaun pick happened. Some of my misses. I thought Reuben Foster was going to be the one. His off the field stuff really did me wrong. Who else did I think was going to be like kind of good? I had faith in Corey Davis. That turned out to be a disaster. Though, I mean, I don't know if that was Mariota or Tennessee's fault or whatever, but again, nobody's perfect. But yeah, I was just saying there are certain guys that have strong feelings about in the beginning. Obviously, you don't know until a couple years play out. But everybody has their thoughts and opinions the night of, like, oh, this is a great pick, or oh, this is a terrible pick, blah, blah, blah. But, so that's why I'm going to go with my favorite and least favorite, not like the best and the worst picks, because again, I can just have the ones I like for whatever reason, whether it's like the fit, whether it's the player himself, whether it's where they got picked, what have you. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to work out, but again, these are just guys that I liked. And then, again, I'm going to go with the ones that are a little bit more head-scratching, Not necessarily that they're bad or wrong picks, because, like I was saying again, nothing's wrong at this point before the season even starts, but the head scratching is definitely a word. One that I definitely liked, I was very much a fan of Patrick Queen from LSU, the linebacker, and even though the Ravens lost the Marshall Yanda to retirement, they probably could maybe use some help on the O-line. They also kind of need a linebacker. And Patrick Queen should alleviate the issues that they're going to have at that position. So I said, the Ravens finally focus on a linebacker, so that they don't have to always blitz all the time to get pressure. Queen was good last year at LSU, 85 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, interception on 2, especially. That was a big one in that Alabama win that they had. LSU's produced is on a decent run of good linebackers. They had Quan Alexander, who, even though he got hurt, was a big free agent last year for the 49ers. Big addition, helped their defense once he got back, too. Deion Jones, obviously, played in the Super Bowl as a rookie, if I remember correctly, with the Falcons. This has been their staple in the middle there for years. Devin White, more recently, drafted by the Bucks, was Quan Alexander's replacement, funny enough. So he's going to fill those lines, and I just think, the Ravens are a team that generally drafts well. Their process may not always be right, but they usually get the right guy in the end. I know, like before, I think it was, 2 or 3 years ago when they drafted, Lamar Jackson. They drafted Hayden Hurts first. People usually forget that. They drafted him first, which was weird when it happened, but whatever. Then they traded back into the first round, got Lamar Jackson. That obviously worked out. Ended up drafting Mark Andrews later on, which obviously worked out. And then they ended up trading Hayden Hurst this offseason. So not the process isn't always right, but the results are usually pretty there at the end of the day. Obviously, they got in guys like Marlon Humphrey and others. I know they just drafted Hollywood. He was good last year when he was healthy. Though Ozzie Newsome was not there anymore, I don't believe, they've always been good at drafting. So, I'm not surprised that they had a guy that I liked. Again, it was a good fit for them. Another one of my favorite quote unquote picks was the Niners. Though I like the Kinlaw pick just because I think he's going to be good. And also, again, fills a need with the D tackle spot. Ayuk, the receiver they drafted later on in the first round, they ended up trading back into the first round, or not trading back into, but trading up in the first round for, giving up 2 later picks, which is interesting because they didn't really have that many picks to begin with, and now they traded away 2 extra ones, and one that they even got for the trade down. So they have 1 less pick than they started out with today. And they already, like I said, they didn't have any picks in the 2nd or 3rd or 4th round, so interesting to see how that's going to work. But again, when you have 2 first-round picks, you can kind of live with that. But yeah, they ended up drafting Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State. I almost said Ohio State. Arizona State. They kind of complement Deebo Samuel a little bit. He's another guy who is not like the biggest guy, may not necessarily be the fastest guy, but when the ball's in his hands, he's hard to bring down, and he gets a lot of yak and gets open pretty easily, which is basically what Deebo Samuel did. I don't know if he's going to be running all the reverses and sweeps and stuff that they had Deebo do. But, again, it's just the guy that they don't really... Not that they can't go down the field. They like to get the ball to Jimmy G's hands and let their playmakers do their thing. And Ayuk seems to fit that bill. Seems like he should be a nice addition to them, slide in. And this is from the New York Times article, just like a draft recap article. But... in mid-October, according to a story by The Athletic, Ayuk was averaging more yards after the catch, 13.6, than Jerry Jeudy was averaging per catch. And apparently, Ayuk said his background was as a running back. So, it's like being a back again after the catch. I think it's the strength of my game. It really makes a difference. Apparently, Kyle Shanahan, not only loves versatile plays, but he was their favorite receiver, or his favorite receiver. Obviously, he likes CeeDee Lamb, too, who they ended up passing on earlier in the draft. But... again, if you got your favorite receiver, technically, at pick 25, that seems like a good haul for you. So I like that pick. It's another pick. I like both picks the Vikings made. Justin Jefferson, again, prolific guy, catches everything. Though, as we talked about a little bit in Jay Rieger last segment, he had inaccurate passes a lot. Justin Jefferson had the highest percentage of accurate passes to him. So, I mean, again, Joe Burrow was amazing. Kirk Cousins isn't bad, so it's not like he's going to be a big drop-off, but you could argue that you should put up those kind of numbers when you're getting accurate passes almost, I think it was almost 70% of the time, something like that. I mean, again, you catch under balls, that's not easy to do. But it's just, I found that interesting, to say the least. But yeah, I like that pick. The receiver, again, they needed somebody. And then also their pick at corner, Jeff Gladney. I think, yeah. It was what, 20, where they end up trading down? No. Did I miss it? No, it was 25, right? No. Am I stupid? No, they got him at like 31. That's what it was. Oh yeah, so they added him, and he's the guy that's a little smaller, on the smaller side, but physical, tough. Started over 42 games at TCU. Broke up 42 passes. He was not afraid to get up and hit people, even though he was only 5'10". Has very good very good cover skills, ball skills. Should be good for them. Obviously, they lose a guy like Xavier Rhodes. They can slide him in there, maybe on the outside, maybe in the slot. And then earlier, obviously, the fit or the need isn't necessarily there, but CeeDee Lamb, again, going to the Cowboys offense, makes that offense just that much better. They needed a third receiver, and CeeDee Lamb could work that. I guess you probably end up, if you're going to have him, Gallup, and Cooper, probably play Cooper more in the slot, which he should thrive in. But, again, they don't have a center right now. They still need help at pass rush. They still need help at corner. Maybe need another linebacker, because you don't never know what Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith was a little shaky last year. Their best corner walked. Their safety situation isn't great. So the defense is still left something to be desired. So I'm not surprised that this pick happened, especially when Jerry said that he was going to be on his own, so no one could talk him out of any picks. So I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing for the Cowboys, because again, this is definitely more of a flashy pick than it is a more fit-based pick. I know, obviously, there was a reported story of years ago, him having to be talked out of drafting Johnny Manziel and end up going with Zach Martin, which is more of the... Zach Martin's a not-flashy pick, but it makes more sense as opposed to Johnny Manziel would have been the flashier pick. And obviously, we know Zach Martin turned out great. So maybe this is that. Maybe it's Jerry... Like I said, you never really know if Jerry got it right or got it wrong, but again, was it a necessity? Is it even a great fit? I don't know. You have good players in your offense, you figure it out. I guess that's what that's Mike McCarthy's job, is getting paid to do. So is that, but again, taking Cesar Ruiz, taking Chason, taking one of the safeties with no safety got drafted in the first round. That was shocking. Maybe taking another corner, because again, they need somebody out there. Need-wise would have made more sense, but hey, he was like, this is too good to pass up. I know everybody's loving it right now. It may work out, it may not. Like I said, the CeeDee Lamb isn't necessarily a burner. He was great. He's a great receiver. No knock on that. I'm not going to obviously say he's going to be a bust, because that would be stupid at this point to say. And he's great after the catch, makes people miss. But again, one could argue Big 12 defenses, not exactly that great. He still put up numbers against the other teams, so it's not like he only put up numbers against the Big 12 teams. But, again, interesting choice by the Cowboys, but like I said, I like the player, so that makes the pick easier. And I guess, like I said, one more pick that I liked was... even though it wasn't necessary, I like going up to get your guys. I like the Bucks going up to get worse. Even though, like I said, do they need to trade up one pick? Maybe, maybe not. I imagine the Niners are fielding calls from a bunch of teams trying to trade up to that spot. But I like when you want a guy, go up and get him. Don't even worry about it. Same thing. Again, do the Bears need to trade up to 2 to get Mitch? Probably not. But again, if you like your guy, why wait? If you have a guy on your board that's high on your board, you like him, just go get him. That's how I feel. And especially at a position where it was a necessity, and that was definitely a necessity. So yeah, I like that. Some of the ones a little head scratching for me, at least, was again the Panthers at 7. taking Derek Brown, even though he's good, he's a great player, big guy, should help that defense out quite a bit. But with Isaiah Simmons on the board, he's a guy you can kind of build your defense around. Derek Brown, you're not building defense around defensive tackle unless he's Aaron Donald, and I don't think he's going to be Aaron Donald. But yeah, that was just a little bit surprising, especially, like I said, when Luke Kuechly had retired, you kind of need somebody to fill that spot, be the leader on that defense, and you don't have that. And it's like, again, not a bad pick. I like Derek Brown, but I'm surprised they didn't go Simmons there. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but that was a little head-scratching for me. Another one would be Ruggs being the first receiver off the board. Not that, again, it's the Raiders. He's fast. Makes total sense to me. But my issue with that is Derek Carr's not really a deep... Like, he's not really a guy with a big arm that's going to be throwing it deep a lot. So I'm like, fit-wise, it doesn't make that much sense. Not that Ruggs is just a strictly guy who runs go routes all the time. That wasn't really his thing. But it's like, if you have a guy with that kind of speed, you want to be able to utilize him down the field. And that's just not Derek Carr's game. He's an underneath... I don't want to say dink and dunk, but he's a quick precision, underneath kind of stuff. And again, Ruggs can take those slants, curls, hitches, outs, and go 70 yards with them, so it'll maybe work out there. But it was just like, the fit wise, I was a little bit on it. But again, I like Ruggs as a player, and I think they drafted him for a reason. They needed speed, so they know who their quarterback is. So if they think it can work, maybe it'll work. But I wasn't a big fan of... I want to say not a... that was a little head-scratching to me. Just because, like I said, not really a deep ball guy, Derek Carr. But, hey, we'll see. Then the last one that left me scratch my head was definitely the Packers and Jordan Love. Not that I don't think it makes sense, because you got to be able to plan for the future. But it's just weird on a team that was in the NFC Championship game last year. You're drafting a guy in the first round who you know for a fact isn't playing, barring injury, to Aaron Rodgers this season. And that's my thing, is I understand it's later in the draft so you can pick and choose whoever. I mean, later in the round so you can pick and choose whoever. And your team doesn't have that many holes, but when you lose, like they lost Blake Martinez starting a middle linebacker. They don't have anyone opposite Devontae Adams at the moment. They lost their right tackle, Bulaga, I believe. So they had some other positions that maybe would have had more of an impact this year. Though, if you're at the quarterback position right, that sets you up for success 10 to 15 years. So I get it from their standpoint. Again, if you think Jordan maybe is a guy that isn't ready to play, day one, all right, assuming Aaron Rodgers is up to the mentoring thing, then he can help groom him in 3 or 4 years down the line. You will have a seamless transition, much like the Packers did before. But again, if you're trying to maximize the years you have left with Aaron Rodgers, you would think maybe getting him a right tackle, shoring up the defense in the middle, getting a receiver opposite Devontae Adams. Not that you can't. It's not. This is the only run you can get a receiver in, but it was just like, I'm surprised that they decided to go the route of the non-impact player, at least, like I said, in the short term. In the long term, maybe it would be more beneficial, but short term to help out Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love does nothing for them. So that was just a little bit head scratching to me. Like, I just didn't. Not that I'm surprised they would be enamored by him, because again, some of the things that people may see in him, people saw in Aaron Rodgers. Again, he's great arm, mobile, make plays on the move. A lot of what Aaron Rodgers can do. Again, Aaron Rodgers is supremely accurate, which Jordan Love is not, but maybe Aaron Rodgers helped him through that. But yeah, it was just like, that was just one I just did not see that coming when it happened. I just assumed when the pick was coming it was going to be a receiver. And it wasn't. So, like I said, a couple ones that left me scratching my head, but I'm not necessarily going to say they're bad or good picks or whatever, because we won't know for at least a couple more years. But just on the surface, it was just like, oh, okay, that's interesting. At the very least, just interesting. That's all I'm going to say, is interesting. Not bad, not good, but interesting. Obviously, the ones I liked, but the other ones were just like, oh, okay, we'll see how this works out. I mean, it's a draft. You're going to have hits, you're going to have misses. This is what it is. No one really knows for certain who's going to be the hits and who's going to be the misses, but like I said, there were just a couple picks I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. That is very, very interesting. And speaking of interesting, Draymond, I don't know why we keep I mean, I understand we don't really got a whole lot going on, so any content will get people interested these days. But I feel like we really need to stop giving Draymond a mic and putting a mic in his face, because he's saying some things, and I'm like, Draymond, let's chill out, my guy. Yeah, so we'll talk about some more. He was on the All the Smoke podcast with Matt Barnes and Stack, Steven Jackson. Had some more comments to say about KD, about Charles Barkley. So we'll talk about all those right after this break. Stay right there.
I want to talk to you guys about this amazing product I've been using lately called Hydrant. If you're like me and you want to kick the coffee habit, but you're worried about your energy levels depleting, to avoid the morning sluggishness and that midday slump, you need to make sure you're hydrated. It's super important. And that's where I've been using Hydrant. And for 25% off your first order, you can go to drinkhydrant.com and enter promo code GSMC at checkout. Hydrant is basically flavored electrolyte packets you mix directly into your water to make hydrating your body easy and delicious. And what I love about Hydrant, it's backed by research. The formula was developed by Oxford scientists to provide perfectly balanced, efficient hydration. Again, that's drinkhydrant.com and enter promo code GSMC for 25% off your first order. Another really cool thing about Hydrant, there's no synthetic colors or artificial sweeteners. The formula is vegan and you can choose between 3 different flavors or a variety pack. So for all my vegan friendly fellows out there, this one's for you. Again, this is drinkhydrant.com and enter promo code GSMC.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So Draymond. So yeah, like I said, he was on the All the Smoke podcast. I guess, well, the episode came out today. I don't know officially when he was on, but I know there was a lot of snippets being put out today. I believe the whole thing is like 2 hours, so I mean, you can kind of imagine when you give Draymond Green, assuming he's on the whole time, if there's 2 hours, he's bound to say something, whether it's like controversial or noteworthy or whatever, he's bound to say something. And he had a lot to say about a lot. One of the biggest things was rehashing his beef with one Charles Barkley. I'll get you some of the full quotes. I don't want to just, because I know there was a little snippet, but I don't want to just give you the snippet. But yeah, so this is from Yahoo Sports, just kind of summarizing it. I know back, this was before the season, I think, broke, or maybe right after the season broke. He was talking about how he could take Barkley's job, and that because he's not smart enough and not qualified to talk to him, he has no ring, so obviously you can't talk to him. And I know Charles came back, said that he's the least famous member of the boy band, which is arguably fair. I mean, when you got guys like Steph and you got Clay and you have KD for the time period, no one's coming to see Draymond. No offense to Draymond. People like to see points. What Draymond does is more intangible, And that's not the stuff that puts people in seats. Obviously, as we can see, when Steph wasn't playing this year and Clay was obviously hurt, people weren't coming to the games with just Draymond and D'Lo. They weren't, because what Draymond was providing was not what the people wanted to see. So, you can make that point was very fair. And then now Draymond has returned with comments of his own, and he talked mainly about his impact on the game. He says that he has a lot of respect for Charles Barkley, the basketball player. As a fan of basketball growing up, Charles Barkley was a great player, and obviously after we heard the comments, we should have known it was going to go left. But again, he reiterated he never won anything. Apparently, he believes that Charles has a beef with him. Ever since he came up in the league, he's taking shots. He believes he's jealous that somebody that's just the same as him or small can come to the league and have the success that he's had, made the money he has, won the championships. These are all things that Charles wasn't able to do. Granted, he made a lot of money in his time, but obviously the money's blown up since then, and that's fair. I believe a lot of old players are mad at these newer players for the money they made. I mean, I would imagine if I'm Scottie Pippen, I'm horrified to see guys like Otto Porter and Alan Crabb get max level deals. No offense to those guys, but understand my point. I mean, what Scottie did was, I forget, what was it, like 70 years, like 18 million, something like that. Just originally, I think he made like $22 million over his first 11. If I remember the note right from the documentary, or from after the documentary that I read on the podcast, I think it was maybe like 11 million or 22 million in 11 years. His first 11 years with the Bulls, just an absurd amount of money. So I can understand older players being mad at him or be mad about that, but Charles talks about basketball all the time. He doesn't seem like an angry person in that regard. So Draymond doubled down, saying that he scored more points than me. All right, cool, but that doesn't necessarily mean he had more of an impact on the game than me, which is, all right, Draymond, I got to stop you there. I got to stop you. For one, Charles, at worst, right now, this moment, probably in most people's top 30 players all time. I want to say top 25, but that'd be too hard to gauge because I don't believe anything that happened in black and white from a sports standpoint. If it happened in black and white, your records exist to me, but I judge you differently because, again, you're playing sports on properly integrated. Obviously, the level of competition only gets better throughout the years, in my opinion. So it's hard to rank from different eras. Like, I'm not. Bob Cousy wouldn't be nowhere near my top 20, 30 best NBA players of all time. I'll have Bill Russell in there. Probably have Wilt in there, though. I mean, Wilt's numbers are so outlandish that it's almost like, all right, come on, somebody has to be making these up. I don't want to say completely they're all a farce, but it's just like his numbers were a little too crazy. Like Bill Russell's are like much more common. Like Wilt averaging like 50 points, 20 rebounds, 30 rebounds. It's like how is this all possible? Granted, if he's extremely athletic and no one else but Bill Russell is that tall, it's pretty simple. But it's like, all right, come on. Some of that stuff seems a little crazy to me. That's beside the point. He's at worst, like I said, Charles Barkley is at worst top 20, top 30. Draymond Green, on the other hand, he's not going to be anybody's top 50 unless you're a Warriors fan. And I don't know at what like mark off does he like top what number does he start making the list. But I can tell you, it's a lot lower than where Charles Barkley is. I can guarantee you that. And again, impact is hard to measure per se, but I feel like a good measurement of it is MVPs. And Chuck has one. Draymond does not. I understand he has a Defensive Player of the Year award and some all-defensive teams, stuff like that, which Charles won't have. But, I mean, if you just look at... Well, first of all, I guess I'll look at his career averages in a second. I just want to run down his awards real quick, make sure I got all the awards and honors right. So, Defensive Player of the Year once, been 3-time All-Star, All-Defensive Team, first and second team 5 times, 3 firsts and 2 seconds, All-NBA twice. So, yeah. I mean, that kind of stuff gauges your impact on the game. But now if I go to good old Charles Barkley, his stuff, is he won All-Star Game MVP, won the regular MVP once, was an 11-time All-Star, was All-NBA first or second team 11 times, plus an All-Rookie first team, was All-NBA first team 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, I believe, if my math is correct. So again, accolades don't match up. Career averages don't match up. Chuck's career average is 22, 11, and 4. Almost 12. So 22, like I said, 11.7 and 4. At 6'6", he's getting 12 rebounds a game. Had a season where he averaged 14.6 rebounds. Again, averaging double-digit points for most of his career up until the very end. Had a season where he averaged 28, and another season where he averaged 27. Not the be-all end-all. Averaged about a steal and a half a game, 0.8 blocks a game for his career. While Draymond Green's averages for his career are a whopping 9 points, 6.9 rebounds, 5 assists, more steals, more blocks. Free throw percentage is a little bit better. Threes are better, but again, not that much better. That's about the same height. So again, how do we gauge impact? Like, how do we decide, impact? Because you could argue MVPs decide the person's impact on the game, impact on their team. He did that. Charles did. Draymond did not. He's also led the team to the finals as the best player. Now, granted, did Draymond was Draymond not the only reason that they didn't get blown out in that Game 7 and that the Cavs ended up winning? Yes. I mean, he had a great game. No denying that. But, I mean, the other 2 times they won, Kevin Durant was clearly the best player on their team. Steph was number 2. The first year they won, Steph was the best player on their team, clearly. And even though Iggy won the Finals MVP, which I understood, but whatever. So it's like, did Chuck win that Finals? No, but he got to the Finals as the best player, clearly. Bar none. Point blank, period. He was the best player on that Suns team? Yeah, he was the best player on that Suns team, easily. I don't want to say easily because I didn't watch, so I don't know for certain, but he was the best player. It's not his fault, necessarily, that they lost. He was the best player on a lot of those Philly teams he was on earlier in his years, too. So again, what do you mean he didn't impact the game the way you do that? Is he as good on defense? No, not at all. That's fine. His impact on the offensive side is double yours. Again, I understand you average more assists and stuff, but it's easy when you have the 2 best shooters in the maybe arguably history of the game. You can get assists. I could get 3 assists. No, I don't want to go that far. But I'm saying if I were an NBA caliber player, you're going to get 2 to 3 assists a game just because Steph and Clay make outrageous shots. It's just going to happen. Or KD, or whoever. Then you have 3 guys that are capable of making shots from almost anywhere on the court. It would make the job of the facilitator a lot easier. And I mean, there's times where he's holding the ball, Draymond is out of the top of the key, not even looking at the basket, just holding, waiting for him to run around screens. And I think this is not from this thing, but he also argued that he's one of the best scene setters ever. And I mean, the Warriors were famous for the moving screen that didn't get called. I know Bogut was a big time offender of that. But yeah, it's just I don't all right, come on, Draymond. You're a very good player, especially for your time, but let's chill out. Let's calm down just a little bit. I don't know how you can just outwardly bash a bona fide first ballot Hall of Famer. Draymond's going to get in eventually, but he's not if he gets in first ballot, I'm something we've just become very lax. Because again, he's great. Great at what he does. He could not do the same stuff on every team, so I think that's important. Charles could be Charles on wherever. Draymond's not Draymond without Steph and Clay, and then eventually KD nearby. As we saw this past season. When you take those guys out of the equation, all right, it becomes hard to facilitate when you have the people that can make shots. And then what else do you bring? Not a whole lot. So yeah, you had a lot of stuff to say about Chuck. I spent a lot of time on that, but I know you had a couple more things to say about KD. talking about how KD was still mad that people, even after their first finals win, people were still calling LeBron the best player in the world. That kind of messed up their season a little bit in terms of, like, he came back, was all a little pouty and stuff throughout the year. And also, I know we talked about how one of the things that KD mentioned for the reason why he left was their fractured relationship, obviously stemming from their altercation and, like, verbal altercation. Obviously, they didn't fight. I don't think they fought. I don't know. The verbal altercation, and I think it was the Clippers game that split into the post game, where Draymond said some things he should not have said to him, and that kind of always messed up their thing. So Draymond was pissed about that, just because he was saying, like, oh, if KD really wanted to stay, they could have gotten me traded. Like, don't use me as an excuse, blah blah blah, whatever. Just not taking responsibility for his part of him leaving. Maybe he's not the sole reason he left, but it's part of it. I know a lot of people don't talk about this, but I think it was the first championship parade. It was either the first or second one. I don't remember, but I think it was when Steph's contract was up, and, like, they were talking about, like, how Steph can get whatever he wants, and, like, KD, they made some sort of offhanded comment, like, yeah, nah, but KD couldn't. Like, he hasn't been here, he didn't build this, blah, blah, blah. Along those lines, just like, shunning what he did for them. Again, did they win a championship before he got there? Yes, but they won more championships with him than without him. And I think that's the interesting thing that people like to forget. Again, they had 73 wins. That's great. But they didn't win a championship that year. Don't mean a thing if you ain't got that ring. Shout out to the Bulls for those shirts, 72 and 10 shirts. Those are fire. I kind of want one. But yeah, they won more championships with him than without him, and all the ones that they won, he was the best player in those finals and throughout most of the season. So it is kind of funny that how much both apparently players and fans of the Warriors are kind of just, like, overlook KD's importance to those teams. Because, yeah, without him, do they beat LeBron the second time? Probably, yeah, because that Cavs team, they're not deserved to be in. Deserves the wrong word. But they should not have been in the finals, honestly, if it weren't for LeBron being amazing. But the next year with, like, the Kyrie and K-Love still back there, if they switch in Harrison Barnes for KD, I don't know if it goes the same way. Because, again, KD was the best player, arguably, on the floor, both teams. So it's hard for me to say with certainty, like, oh, yeah, you take him out, they would have been fine. Like, I understand they were fine before, but before is before. There's different teams every year. Just because you were good a year or 2 years before does not mean you're going to be good in the future. There's no guarantee of that. So they needed something in order to make sure they can get over that hump. KD was that. It obviously worked. But just it's always kind of funny just to, like, a lot of Warriors fans, and I guess players now too, Draymond specifically, and kind of just overlook and kind of shun what KD brought to the team because he wasn't there from the beginning. Which is fair. But again, they only won one championship without him. Only one. And it was against the Cavs team that had no Kyrie, no K-Love. Timofey Mozgov and Delly were getting significant minutes for that team. Tristan Thompson was arguably a second best player, depending on who you ask. He got a max contract deal off that finals. So let's not act like the Warriors ran to the Bulls or the Shaq and Kobe Lakers and get that first championship. It was a hobbled Cavs team. Let's pump the brakes here, guys. Their legacy looks a lot different if KD doesn't go there, in my personal opinion. But hey, it doesn't matter because we'll never know with that. But we need to stop letting Draymond talk for at least give it like a week. You said a lot in the last few days. Give it like a week. You can come back and say something else. But like I'm just like just tell Draymond to chill, at least for a little bit. Just chill. Just chill. After we come back, we're going to switch gears, and we finally got some new news from the MLB in terms of their investigation they did on the Boston Red Sox. So we'll talk about that, some of the penalties that were levied down, and if they were hard enough, or if they were much like people's opinions of the Astros penalties, a little too lenient from the commissioner of the MLB. So we'll talk about that right after this break. Stay right there.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
We are back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, the Boston Red Sox. It's been a while since we've had any news on this investigation. I know we talked about the Astros penalties and all that stuff a while ago, but the Red Sox one was supposed to be ongoing as well. It's been a while since we heard any updates, and now I finally have some updates to give you guys. So, with the scandal, or with the potential scandal, the MLB on Wednesday suspended Red Sox video replay system operator J.T. Watkins without pay through the 2020 postseason and stripped the team of its second-round draft pick this year after completing an investigation into the allegations that Boston stole signs during the 2018 season. Former manager, I scored because they obviously had to fire him, who mutually parted ways with the team in January as a part of the fallout from the Astros signing scandal. Was suspended to the 2020 season as well, but only for conduct as the Houston's bench coach, the league said in its announcement, which is an interesting and key point. Core and the former Astros player Carlos Butchart were the key individuals in the scheme to place a camera near the Houston's dugout to have the players bang on trash cans, blah, blah, blah. He left in 2017, went to Wrestling in 2018, they helped win the title. Baseball commissioner wrote in a report that he does not believe Core was aware of Watkins' actions and he will not impose additional discipline. Core said in a statement Wednesday that he is relieved that these MLB investigations are concluded. Obviously, I would feel the same way. He also says he takes full responsibility of the role he played along with others in the 2017 situation with the Astros. The collective conduct on the Astros organization in 2017 was unacceptable, and he respects the commission's decision and takes responsibility for his past actions. President CEO said the Red Sox president and CEO Sam Kennedy said Wednesday that the team's 2018 championship isn't tainted as a result of the investigation, but still said the team's actions were still unacceptable. We accept the findings in the report, he said, and the MLB conducted interview. It was exhaustive and thorough, and it found that Watkins engaged in conduct described in the report, and with a limited group of players. It's really all we can say, given that it was baseball's conclusion in their report. So for Cora, being cleared of any wrongdoing while managing the Red Sox could clear their way for his return to Boston in 2021. If Cham Bloom, I think that's how you pronounce his first name, the team's chief baseball officer, indicated Wednesday that won't happen. Oh wait. But, Cham Bloom said that that's not going to happen. We said at the time we parted with Alex, we were clear that the result of his role, what happened with the Astros and everything that happened with the investigation over there and review, it had nothing to do with what may or may not occurred in Boston. That is still the case. All the reasons that we parted ways are still the case. As with the Astros investigation, Red Sox players were promised immunity in the MLB's investigation, but Manfred said that even if players had been subject to discipline, none would have been punished. That's interesting, because if they're guilty, then they should be punished, but whatever. Manfred wrote in a report that Watkins, who denied the allegations on at least some occasions during the 2018 regular season, utilized the game feeds in the replay room in violation of MLB regulations to revise sign sequence information that he permissibly provided to players prior to the game. Manfred found Boston's conduct far less egregious than that of the Astros, fair. Unlike the Astros' 2017 conduct, in which players communicated from the batter to the batter from the dugout area in real time the precise type of pitch that was coming. Watkins' conduct, by its very nature, was far more limited in scope and impact. The information was only relevant when the Boston had a runner on second, which is about 20% of the time league-wide in 2018. Watkins communicated sign sequences in a manner that indicated that he had decoded them from the in-game feed. Only a small percentage of those occurrences. Apparently, Manfred said that he did not find anyone knew or should have known what Watkins was doing or utilizing in the game. And so more or less, the only person that really got suspended or really got punished hard was the video operator guy. But I will say it is kind of interesting. Not necessarily that interesting that Alex Cora got off, but it is interesting that they claim that he and other people, I guess other than the limited amount of players he talked to in order to relay this information, knew what was going on. Because, again, I'm not going to assume Alex Cora did anything, because it's not my place to say that. But at the same time, if you came fresh off cheating with the Astros, and it worked, and you got away with it, no one even questioned it. I mean, well, some people questioning it, but no one, there's no investigation, no one said anything, no one ratted. At that point, what would stop you, is my thing. And then also, I guess, because this video operator, though acting alone, did give the information to some players. So I imagine, at some point, someone had to say something to Cora. And if he did nothing, and then even though it's not as bad as, like I said, the banging and potential buzzers and all the other things that the Astros did, not only to distract the pitcher, but also to identify in real time. I think that's what probably makes a difference, is that in real time, it's a lot worse than if, because people try to steal signs all the time. If I figure out your sign sequence before the game, just from watching film, you can't really be mad at me for that. I just figured it out. Now, it's up to you to decide whether you want to keep it the same or change it or whatever, but if I figured you out, that's not, you can't really be mad at. Who are you mad at, me or yourself? You should be mad at yourself for getting figured out. And, again, the guy was doing it in a way that was technically illegal, but I guess that's just what he was trying to do, just try to be helpful in whatever manner. Like I said, assuming, no, I guess again, not going to assume, so let me rephrase that. Knowing that certain players were involved in this, in whatever capacity, I find it hard to believe that, again, no coach, the manager, the bench coach, the hitting coach, the pitching coach, whoever, no one knew about this at all. No front office guys, nothing. No one knew. That's the only place where it gets a little tricky for me, because, again, I'm not going to assume that he just brought the cheating over from the Astros. But if you're fresh off of cheating and you didn't get caught, you're probably going to cheat again. I've been watching, I've been watching a lot of TV shows during the quarantine. So I finished Breaking Bad, I finished Ozark, gonna start on Better Call Saul soon and The Wire soon. That's not the main point. My point is that for most of these people, again, it's a TV show, so not exactly real life, but when people do criminal things and criminal activity and don't get caught, very rarely they just like, alright, I'm good. I'm just gonna walk away. A lot of people enjoy the rush, enjoy the thrill of doing that, and they want to continue being a part of that world. So they continue to do what they were doing before until they get caught eventually, because obviously, not obviously, but very few people get to live a life in which they don't get caught or don't get caught up by their past actions. This is just another example of that. It's like, alright, maybe he didn't do anything obviously that blatant as what he did with the Astros. Again, the bang on the things that's a lot. But it's just hard to say that if somebody was doing something illegal within the organization he was the manager of, how did he not know about it? Because even if he walked away from the 2017 Astros and he's like, nah, this is too risky, I can't have this happening. If I'm him, I'm making sure that it doesn't blow back on me, so I'm trying to do everything I can to clean the place up, make sure everybody's on the up and up, make sure no one's doing anything even remotely shady. And now the fact that, again, apparently this guy was acting alone, but it's just hard for me to believe that no one else knew about it. Not that they had to help him or anything, but just no one else knew. It's just as one guy acting alone with how many other players are involved. I think it's another thing. But he kind of already made his bed with the Astros things. And once you, like, giving players full immunity really does encourage cheating, in my opinion. Honestly. The Astros got off not that light, but no title strip, no player suspended. So in that regard, it's kind of light. The Red Sox got off even lighter. He was a second-round pick. The manager that was already fired is suspended a year. The video operator guy is gone. All right, you already had the manager. I forget who that manager is, but yeah, they already had the manager. You got to find a new video guy, which is unfortunate. But again, no baseball's being played anytime soon. You got nothing but time to figure this out. But it's just the fact that again, but it was just he set the bad precedent because once you couldn't, what the Astros did, assuming this was all the Red Sox did, and they don't find anything else, was blatant and obvious, and a lot of people took part, and it was just all bad. Well, they didn't get anybody suspended for it. Only people that were even outwardly named were the guys that were no longer players or no longer with the team at that point in the investigation. Those are the only ones outwardly named. Everyone that maybe was involved but is currently on the team, not a word. And I'm just how does that work? Because you would think these two, Beltran and Cora, weren't just doing it on their own. They weren't the only ones begging. They weren't the ones going up to the plate. Beltran was a little bit, but Cora wasn't up there going up to the plate and benefiting from this. Obviously, they won a World Series, so they, as a team, benefited. But it's just hard for me to imagine that they should have been the only ones punished for this. But again, once you didn't punish any Astros players, you can't punish any Red Sox players because what they did was significantly worse. Sorry. Saying words is hard sometimes. Significantly worse than what the Astros did, significantly worse than what the Red Sox did. So you can't punish the Red Sox guys. It was already, like I said, it was a loser situation in that regard. And now everybody thinks Manfred's weak. So I guess if he cares about that, that's annoying. But if he doesn't, hey, more power to him. But I'm just kind of shocked. Like I said, very rarely do people do something illegal and not get caught and then just be like, all right, I'm good. They usually continue to do it, and then maybe they stop, maybe they keep going, see how big it gets, who knows. But very few people that I've seen in real life and in TV shows do something illegal and then just this is just a completely one-off, I'm never going to do anything like this again. I think that's just what we're assuming with Cora, is that, he did something illegal, got off, and just yeah, now I'm good, I don't need to do this anymore. Which maybe he did. Maybe the ring gave him whatever validation he was looking for, and he was at peace. But Yeah, I find that hard to believe. So, yeah, this is where we are. But yeah, I guess good for the Red Sox. They didn't really have to give up their title. They didn't have to. Nothing too drastic came down. They're still gonna. This is mainly remember for the Astros. No one's really. The Red Sox probably just end up being a little blip on the radar. There's not as much. Hit my water bottle. But not as much stuff happened with them. This is in terms to what happened with the Astros. So it is what it is. But it's just, like I said, just a little bit surprising that they're getting him for core, that is. They're getting him for stuff that already happened, not the new investigation. Where they found that still illegal activity was going on, lesser scale, but still something illegal was going on. But they're just like, yeah, no, you're good on that. Just take the hit on the Astro stuff, you're good to go. Hey. It is what it is at this point, but it's just, like I said, just a little bit surprising to your boy. But yes, speaking of surprising, a lot of NBA, well not a lot, but NBA players are speaking out about where they think the NBA season will come back post-Rona. And some of the players would very well be surprised if there was an NBA season after all this is done. So we'll talk about one of the players that had that opinion and why I think he feels this way and whether or not I think he's right, all that other fun stuff right after this. So stay right there.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
GSMC Podcast Network. So, that's talking about surprises. Oklahoma City Thunder guard Chris Paul still sounds weird to say, even after basically a year of him being in OKC. But hey, that's where he's at now. It's worked for him. But yeah, so should the NBA set a plan in place to restart in the coming months, it will need to include at least 3 to 4 weeks of players to prepare to play games. Oklahoma City guard Chris Paul said on Wednesday. I'm just letting you know. And I don't think the league would do it anyway, but if they were like, hey, you guys got 2 weeks, and then we're going, that's not going to happen, Paul said, who was serving as his 7th year as the National Basketball Players Association president, said during a conference call, that's not going to happen. Whatever the amount of time is, just know that players will have the input to say so because we're the ones playing. That comes first. We don't ever want to put guys in a situation where the injury risk is higher than ever before. Since the NBA season was suspended because of the coronavirus pandemic, many players haven't had access to training facilities or basketball goals. Paul said that he hasn't shot in a basketball gym since the layup lines prior to his team's game against the Jazz on March 11th. I know he did the little horse tournament, but that's not exactly the same thing. And I know I think it was my boy Jimmy G Buckets? Jimmy Gets Buckets? I feel like that's a nickname I've heard from. Whatever. Regardless, my boy Jimmy Buckets, he sent like most of the players on his on the Heat like basketball goals because again, like not everybody has a basketball hoop, which is like I feel like it shouldn't be that surprising. Maybe this is some people like I understand like most NBA players are like rich and stuff, but a lot of them aren't like elite level players, so they're not getting paid that kind of money. Not a normal person just has like a normal like gym in their house. That's just not a thing people have. Like, do I imagine LeBron would have one? Yeah. Do I imagine Steph would have one? Yeah. But, like, do I expect Tyler Hero to have one? No, not at all. That's foolish to think. Especially not in Miami. Miami's expensive, even with the no state tax. There's no way he's staying in a place that's that nice that can have that kind of stuff. So I understand why Jimmy Butler had to send them the stuff so you could be able to still work on your shot. Because, I mean, again, if and whenever this decides to start back up, if they decide to start back up and have it be this current season, I guess you could say. I don't know. It's hard to say because it's not happening currently. But if they're going to restart this season or start back up this season, it's going to take a lot of time to get back acclimated to the cardio and the working out and the schedule and the grind and like I said, and shooting on a normal basket, like that's not a thing most people have had being able to do. Getting their body right, because again, not everybody has. I mean, I guess you can do virtual stuff with your training, but if there's a certain thing that they do, like a certain massage or a certain exercise they do that you can't do on yourself, exercise you should be able to stretch your whatever you need stretched out. But in terms of like a massage or a specific thing that they put on your whatever your ailment may be, you haven't been able to do that maybe in a couple months. I mean, a couple weeks, I should say, not in a month, but a couple weeks, just because you haven't had access to those practice facilities and the training facilities. So I could see why it's going to take guys a little bit while to get back acclimated, just because if they're used to not doing nothing, because I don't imagine them just doing nothing during this time, they're not doing necessarily basketball-related things. So until you're back in basketball shape, it's gonna be a minute. So I understand Chris Paul's opinions in terms of that. Since the NBA season was suspended, so I already said that. Charlotte Hornets coach James Borrego told reporters Wednesday he thinks players would need multiple weeks to get back into basketball shape for game action. He noted that unlike during previous work stoppages such as the lockout season, players aren't playing regular 5-on-5 anymore. ESPN's Brian Windhorst reported last week that a 25-day program has been proposed in which players would go through 11 days of individual workouts that would include a measure of social distancing and then, if permitted by medical officials, a 2-week formal training camp. I get what we're dealing with right now. A lot of hypotheticals. I get what we're dealing with right now. A lot of hypotheticals, but I don't know, Paul said, when asked how long players would need to get back in basketball shape. This is the thing with having 450 players in the league and being in a situation like this, where some guys have access to weight rooms, some guys don't. Some guys have access to facilities where they can train and they can do this and they can run. That's why whatever happens, I say this, and I mean this. We always go back to the players. And Paul was careful not to discuss hypothetical situations at length, obviously, because he can't, being as he would be involved in those negotiations, such as what a return might look like in a possible quarantine bubble, and if he'd be okay doing that. And also if he'd be okay going directly to playoffs or with no more regular season game. At the end of the day, he said he just wants to play. Trying to figure out what it looks like right now. I focus more on playing in some form or fashion. Long story short, I think Fred VanVleet, not that obviously he's any bigger or less big than Chris Paul, but he kind of echoed the kind of same sentiments, is that he kind of thinks everybody's preparing for the worst case scenario, that they're probably not going to play a season at all. Obviously, the NBA's been on the forefront of this, so they can figure out a way to play. They're going to figure out a way to play. There's a very good chance they don't figure out a way to play. And also, Nevada was one of the spots they were trying to work on, but that mayor's wilding right now, so you can't count on that. Just because I know she's talking about we need to open stuff up, but she's not going to be out there because she got a family to feed. Like, do you hear yourself? Well, whatever. I'm not going to berate the mayor of Las Vegas right now, but she was definitely wilding. And Anderson Cooper, where he was going through it in that interview, my son had to take the glasses off and do the 2-hand eye rub. That's when you know it's bad. As a person that wears glasses, anytime you're really stressed and you have to rub your eyes really deeply, that's when you know you're going through some stuff. And I could tell my man was going through some stuff in that interview, so I feel bad for him in that regard. But yeah, you could take them out of the Bubble City running, which is an issue because they had a lot of facilities set up to where it could have potentially worked as Bubble City. But if Vegas is out, then I don't know where you kind of go in terms of places that have enough courts and enough gyms and enough hotels and enough training facilities in order to house 32 teams. Most people can't do that. Most cities can't afford that. Especially not now. They don't have time to build something up. It's like it needs to be rather immediate. So we'll see if, I guess, we'll see what kind of happens with that. But yeah, no. I think a lot of players, and rightfully so, are realizing the situation and the severity of the situation that they're in right now. And just the fact that there's, one, a lot of hurdles to even get back to playing. And then if we do decide, or not we, as if I'm making the decision, if they decide to get back and play, how it's going to look. Because you can't just step right into game action. Obviously, people will get seriously hurt, and then now they're getting sued, and you don't want that. The same reason why I know a lot of, I don't know a lot per se, but just like why I think a lot of states are postponing or deciding to hold off on opening things back up. Because once they do open things back up, if you start going to restaurants or different places, now you get the Rona, lawsuit may very well be on your hands, and they'll have a decent case because you just decide, like, hey, we need this money for the economy, blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, but people's lives are on the line, we probably shouldn't do this. And then, hey, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I do think Chris Paul's point is probably accurate. They're going to need some sort of time period. And I know, like I said, Windhorst talked about the 25-day thing, and I don't know if that's necessarily going to be enough. But it's going to take a while, even if they decide, oh yeah, we can start the training camp or start whatever thing June 1st. Just hypothetically. It's going to take at least like 3 to 4 weeks, not a month, there, everyone to get back into good shape so you can not worry about either A, injuries, or B, a bad product out there on the floor, because obviously you want to bring them as good of a product as you can, and the NBA standard is very high in terms of their gameplay, so you're not going to want to diminish that by having either guys getting hurt or the pace being slowed because of all the fouls and no one's in good shape, blah, blah, blah. So you got to be able to figure all that out, because if you can't, then it's going to be an issue. Personally, for me. So you got to be able to figure out that some way, somehow, in order to get that up and running, make sure everything's running smoothly on that end, just because if you don't, like I said, it's going to be an issue. So that's just me on that. But yeah, I think, like I said, I guess we'll kind of see what happens with that. I'm not really... The only thing I think that can maybe go on this year is potentially the NFL. And even then, day by day it's looking shakier, especially with Fauci talking about the stuff's going to return in September or October or whatever. Sometime by the end of the year, we're going to catch a second wave of this, if you will. Now, hopefully, have the proper testing in place and everything to be a part of that, but that factor that's out there kind of makes me fear that there's nothing that's going to happen, maybe nothing that should happen this year in terms of sporting events. I know a lot of places have said that concerts and big musical events probably aren't going to happen until 2021 and stuff. So I would not be shocked if sports are the same way. Though I know NFL is going to try their hardest to get it going. They're going to do everything they can to make sure that it looks and plays as good as possible. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't know. You want to be hopeful, but it's just hard to be during these times. You want to think everything's going to work out and people are going to be able to watch sports again, but it's too hard to know. It's too hard to project. It really is. So we will see how that goes. And lastly, after we come back from our last break, we're going to discuss, obviously, only 32 picks, so not everybody can go in the first round. We're going to talk about some guys in the second round that I think could be worth watching for on day 2, different position groups and such, and also kind of maybe where I think some good fits for them would be, potentially, at least. So we'll talk about all that right after this break. Stay right there.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and One Championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Friday, second and third rounds will go down. And with that, there were people that potentially could have gone in the first round that didn't, that are now going to be available in those early rounds. We're going to run through some of them. Some of the biggest things, or biggest takeaways, I guess you could say, from round one was that with a running back, but that was the only running back taken. So the run on running backs is eventually going to happen at some point during the second round. Clyde Edwards-Helaire went to the Chiefs with the last pick. Interesting selection in my opinion because he's a little bit smaller. They might go a little bit more speed guy, maybe like a Swift or somebody. But again, force missed tackles at that rate, it's hard to overlook that. Even at that side, I think it's like 5'7", 5'8" on a good day. Not exactly a normal running back, but again, they have nobody. Damian Williams is a solid back for the time being, assuming he's still there. I don't know that for a fact. But yeah, maybe they could double dip on running back. Who knows? But he's good. But yeah, so. Only one running back taken in the first round. No safeties, which is interesting. I thought Xavier McKinney was going to go somewhere, but I guess it just didn't work out for him. Grant Delpit obviously was a guy whose stock has definitely dropped over this past year. Though, in fairness to him, he claims he played hurt, or people believe he played hurt at least during this season at LSU. It doesn't exactly exclude all the bad angles he took necessarily, but if he is playing hurt and toughing it out. Again, hey, more power to him, but I would have probably advised against that and make sure you're healthy and make sure you're not putting on bad tape because that's kind of what Grant Delpit has on a few of these plays. So that's less than ideal. So no safeties, which is another interesting thing. So you would think a couple of them, and then not even just those. Antoine Winfield Jr. No safety that come off the board, especially kind of early. Jeremy Chin, Aston Davis are a couple guys to watch out for later second round, because I don't know if they're going to come off early, but again, that's the thing, like I talked about with the draft boards. I think I already mentioned this, but like Ayuk was Kyle Shanahan's favorite receiver. There's a report out there, I don't know how true it is or not, that Rieger was the number 2 receiver for the Eagles behind Jerry Jeudy. Might question that, why his grade was higher than Lamb. But whatever. That's not my point. My point is that everybody's draft board is a little bit different. So people, like I said, people we think are going to be early first round picks are going to be in the third. People we think that should go in the third or fourth are going to go in the early part of the second or mid part of the second. It's hard to say for certain what aspects of the draft boards kind of overlap between the teams. Little parts are just like very team specific. So you would go to one team, they're going to have the position ranked this way. Different teams are going to have it ranked this way. Different teams are going to have it ranked that way. Like it's hard to say, like I said, for certain. So there is that. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm trying to think who else to keep my eye on for potential second round, third round movement. There's still a decent amount of receivers out there as well. I know there were T. Higgins, Denzel Mims, or two guys that people thought could go in the first round. Didn't end up happening, but they're both guys, especially if you're a team in need of a big body guy, big body receiver, whether it's a fast kind or just a regular big body guy. Those are probably your guys. And also, with that, they also have Michael Pittman, I think Jr., but Michael Pittman from USC. The guy is supposed to go in the second, third round, but I know he's been one of those fast risers. I believe at the time of when the draft ended on Thursday, he was the next highest guy rated on Mel Kiper's big board, I believe. Could be wrong about that, or I know he showed me something that made it seem like that. I wish I remember. But regardless, he's a very good receiver, catches basically everything, big body guy, not that slow, ran like a 4.52. And then obviously you got Laviska Shenault, who many people thought could be a first round pick again, but core muscle issues probably ruined that chance. Probably did end up ruining that chance, I think. Just because I don't know exactly what reason people have had to break off with him. But yeah. So yeah, you got some options at receiver. You can potentially go down. You still got another tackle or two. Josh Jones, I believe, from Houston, I believe is his name. You go off the board. There's only been what? No. So there's been Kuda, Henderson, Terrell. Dakota Henderson, Terrell Gladney. And then Noah from Auburn. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. It's just 5 corners. They go off the board, but it's still Christian Fulton, a guy that many people thought could go in the first round, still on the board. Oh, David Arnett, too. I think maybe that's 6. I don't remember. But yeah, so you got him, got Trevon Diggs, another guy people thought going in the first round. He's still on the board. Jalen Johnson from Utah, he's still on the board. That's probably it for corners. But yeah, maybe the biggest thing was just the lack of pass rushers, honestly. Like, I guess, well, you had Chase Young, you had Chase on, but I think everyone else was like a defensive tackle or like a linebacker or something, which is like kind of nuts. When you think about it, just because that's not really normally the position, at least depending on who you are. At least the person that plays as long as this are. Yeah, it's something where it's going to be interesting to look at for certain. Just the fact, like I said, not that many guys. You got Gross Matos still available. Zach Bond still available. A.J. Epineza still available. Julian Okora still available. You got, like I said, quite a few different edge rushers, pass rushers, defensive ends, however you want to call it. Just guys that can get to the passer. Not that many of them were drafted so far, at least on the edges. So that's another position that's going to be kind of deep in terms of you're going to have guys in the top second round that could potentially create like one of those runs like we see in almost every draft where it's like, all right, would you use this person, this team picks this person, and now there's like 3 people that pick gifts very similar to theirs. Again, not necessarily a surprising thing, but just definitely something to keep an eye out for in terms of this next step, the next 2 rounds. Just because, like I said, that'll be interesting. And then lastly, probably the last interesting thing, just like what happens with the next tier of quarterbacks. So the 4 quarterbacks that are supposed to go in the first round went. All right, cool. So now we're done with them. So who's next, and where does it happen? Where does Jake Fromm go? Where does Jalen Hurts go? Jalen Hurts, I should say. Where does Jacob Eason go? And when does it happen? Is this like a second round thing? Is this like a third round thing? Is it early? Is it late? It's interesting to see who's going to do what and decide to maybe shake things up a little bit. Because, like I said, there's been after pick 6 there wasn't a quarterback taken until 26, I believe. Whenever the Packers picked, so it was like a big gap between the quarterback picks, which is not completely uncommon, but definitely is a little bit surprising, especially for a batch where, I know, because I think even in this batch, kind of like the tackles, there was like a clear-cut guys that were head and shoulders above everybody else, and those guys kind of separated themselves, and then that's how you end up in scenarios like this. So, yeah, that's my last interesting group to take a look at is like when do those next tier of quarterbacks start to come off the board? Because, like I said, the first group, the guys that we kind of all assumed they're going to go in the first round, went in the first round. So now we're just left for everybody else. And when does everybody else start? And where does it feed? And who does it pick when it does come time? So, like I said, quarterback, receiver, safety, or secondary as a whole, because safety and corner, still a lot of good people there. And then running. Did I say running back already? I know I was talking about Clyde Edwards. I don't know if I did a full thing on the running backs, but yeah, no, that's probably, honestly, there's a lot of positions that we could see there's a lot of good options. You got, like I said, the running back position, you only one got taken, so you got Swift, you got J.K. Dobbins, you got Jonathan Taylor, you got other guys depending on who you are high or low on. There's a lot of options, different flavors, different choices for you if you're in need of a running back, which not everybody is, but if you are in need of one, there's one's available for you. So, like I said, a lot of good and diverse options from different teams. A lot of them. So I wanted to look up because I thought the Dolphins could go running back their last pick, but they decided to go corner. To each their own, but was at least a little bit surprised that they went corner. But yeah, so next, let's see, Indianapolis. I know Cincinnati's up first. They're probably gonna. I wonder, they might go tackle, so maybe like a Josh Jones kind of thing. Chargers probably gonna go full No, not Chargers. Wow, Colts. Probably you can go all in on receiver. That makes some sort of sense. Like I said, Miami doesn't pick again until 39. This is like a prime spot for. Who did I leave it? And who they give it to? I'm trying to think. I don't know. Who should they give? But that's a good spot for them to just like pick whatever running back they want potentially. I know New England picks in the top half of the second round. So maybe they'll show up there, have a talk, maybe talk some quarterback process. Maybe they'll get their guy there, whoever that guy is, because I don't know who it is or who could be at this point. But maybe that could be an option. Also, I know Houston has their first pick, number 40. Maybe they go receiver. They got to fill out. I mean, they have Will Fuller, they have Randall Cobb, they have Kiki Okute. Not sure, but they have to show this. But it's like, hey, maybe they could. I'm trying to think. They could be a potential receiver spot. Who else? Chicago. Chicago has 2 second-round picks tomorrow or today. They're another one of those weird wild card teams because no one really knows what they're going to do. Whether they're going to trade up, whether they're going to trade down, whether they're going to stay put. And there's a lot of needs. The world needs to know. So yeah, you got them available. You got to see where they go with that. But yeah, I'm trying to think who else. So yeah, Chicago. Like I said, they could go quarterback. They could go tight end. Maybe have to take the first tight end off the board. The guy from Notre Dame, I think. What's it? Cole Kemet, I believe, is a Notre Dame tight end. Yeah, they go somewhere else. I know they brought Jimmy Graham, but that shouldn't stop you from getting a tight end personally. But again, I'm not in the NFL front office, so this pick does not affect my job security at all. But yeah, long story short, there's a lot of good options, a lot of good stuff, a lot of good people still available. I think, I think this is what people meant when we started. It was a deep draft at certain positions. There's even positions where people have gone a lot. There's still a lot of very good options left in the second round, which is not always the case. I don't want to say never the case, but it's not always the case. Sometimes it's just like you have people, and that's all you really got. Sometimes it's, like I said, you got a lot of options later on where you're like, oh, wow, I can't believe a guy of this caliber is still available, or a guy of that caliber is still available, or I can't believe that this guy got skipped over, or this guy got picked this early, blah, 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 whatever. But yeah, it should be another fun round, and then obviously you finish it up on Saturday with the later round stuff. But it should be interesting. It should be interesting to say the very least. Hopefully there'll have to be more trades, more not random picks, but more surprise picks, more just more things to keep us on our toes. Because again, after this, we really don't have a whole lot to watch. So I'm ready for and willing to watch and deal with any and almost everything. Not everything, but almost everything. So yeah, that should be quite fun. So I would advise you all to tune in. But yeah, that'll do it for me here today on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. I want to thank you guys for listening as always. And before I get out of here, I want to make sure I shout out, as I like to do, all the essential workers out there for doing their thing, keeping us safe, even though many people may believe your work is not really real. Many people believe the things to a hoax. Many people believe that we should open back up outside and stop infringing on their liberties to work or whatever. Or I guess their right to die for the economy. Whatever you want to call it. But yeah, sorry you have to deal with those people. Sorry a lot of those people in those states are going to now be in your hospitals having to be dealt with because the Rona doesn't stop for no man. But yeah, I just want to give you guys a shout out. You guys, without you guys, we would be in even worse shape. So thank you for that, and obviously thank you, especially for grocery store workers, for being able to allow me to get food. Because they could have honestly shut that down. I appreciate that they didn't, but they could have. But it's coming. So there's that. So I want to thank you guys for listening. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top when we drop our latest stuff. If you could be as well, give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. Be very appreciated, very helpful. See what you guys like, dislike, ways you can improve, all that fun stuff. And if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss, we can talk about the NFL draft, all aspects of it, surprise picks, your favorite picks, your least favorite picks, things you expect on day 2. You can talk about Draymond, how he's talking too much. Or maybe he needs to talk more. Maybe you like the way what Draymond's saying. And maybe I'm off base. Please, please, please. Let me know. You can talk about the Red Sox getting the light little tap on the wrist and not really much else. But I don't know what else we would have expected, but I'm not that surprised at all. But yeah, I've been Chris Blaze. I want to thank you guys for listening. As always, that has been my time. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.